Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Apostala Eddin, joined as always by my cat, Apu. And I make videos talking about Islam and other related topics. Today's live stream is about the hijab. I'll be speaking to a woman who decided to remove her hijab after 11 years of wearing it. And it's a very divisive topic. Often you either hear people saying that the hijab is a beautiful thing and it's a choice and it's an expression of how a woman wants to present herself, and others say that it is the worst thing to ever exist. So today I'll just speak to someone who has firsthand experience with the hijab. I know that sometimes people get upset when a man talks about it because I'm not a woman, I've never experienced the hijab, but I like to have firsthand accounts and, to bring that into the discussion. So today's caller, Ati, is someone who did wear the hijab for a long time. We'll be asking her questions about what made her decide to take it off, how her life has been going since then, what she thinks about the hijab in general, and the discourse surrounding the hijab. And if you have any questions for the caller or for me, let us know in the live chat. I'll try to get to them if the time allows. And in the time being, just hear us out and listen to me talking to Ati. So, Ati, I hope you're ready because I'm adding you to the call now. Hey, how's it going, Ati? How's your day going?
I'm okay. I'm okay. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. Um, yeah, so let's begin by talking about your background with religion. Tell me a bit about that.
Okay, so I'll just go over it generally. So around, I would say I mainly started taking it seriously when I went to a boarding school at the age of 11. So I went to Islamic boarding school, and it didn't last long. For 2 years, I left. Um, for a lot of reasons. It was mainly because of a bunch of bullying and harassment. So then after that, I went to a public school, that was like a mix of South Asian Muslims, but they weren't always practicing, but some of them are. Then I had to move again to an all Catholic school, which, funnily enough, was actually mainly filled with like atheists. But I was like the only hijabi there. And then the other one is, um, I moved when I went to my college. Um, it was mainly like around 97% Muslim South Asian woman. So that was another thing. And then now that I'm in uni, um, it's just a mix of so many things. So I would say my background with like hijab mainly started at the age of 9, and it progressively got more and more. The way I was viewing it and the way I put it on myself as well, um more pressure on myself, more expectations. I was more exposed to the actual realities as a Muslim woman and what would actually come with wearing the hijab. But now that I'm a visible like Muslim, I realized how there was so much more criticisms made towards me that I wasn't aware of as a young kid. And I actually kind of like took it upon myself and pressured myself, and you would like criticize myself because of it. And it, instead of just the scarf, it got progressively like more into sorry, it got more like, let's say, more expectations on how I was actually wearing my clothing, to not being covered enough, to how was I talking to other people. I was laughing too much, talking too loud. um oh, like if I was like talking to the opposite sex, like, oh no, like what is she doing? And I come from a very like a neighborhood that's mostly um filled with like Muslims. Like it's a very conservative Islamic neighborhood. um you rarely
And
see
to
any.
be clear, you don't live in a Muslim majority country, right? You live in
No,
a
yeah, I live in the West. I live in the
okay,
UK. So
okay.
so even then I was living in a neighborhood where I was dealing with so many pressures from like aunties. Well, not really just my aunties, like just neighborhood, my mom's friends, so many things. Other girls, other hijabis, even non-hijabis, non-hijabi women. So those are some things. And also, let's say, I think at the age of 16 was when I found myself becoming more extreme, I have to be honest. Like, maybe not aggressively, but in my head, I definitely had more extreme thoughts and was trying to like understand where I was actually coming from when I was trying to process what like, because I had a lot of doubts, but I kept trying to use these extreme things to like protect myself. So there was that kind of stuff. I'm not really sure if I'm making
Well,
sense.
can I inquire what can you give us an example of something that you would consider extreme or how you were becoming more extreme
So
at that age?
So I think at a young age, for example, on the topic of homosexuality, and even as a lesbian myself, I was actually becoming more and more anti, well, homophobic. But in my head, I wouldn't outwardly like be saying, be attacking homophobe. What am I saying? Like gay people. I wouldn't be attacking them, but in my head, I'll be thinking like, oh, this is so like bad. This is so like yeah, so there was that, and I think it also came from a sense of self-denial as well. So I was trying to like rationalize the fact that even though I'm a lesbian, like God is still gonna like love me. I just have to not do anything about it. I don't have to act on it. And then like this whole like thing about how Muslims always have this go at the West, like, oh, the West is so crazy, like they always have like this strong rainbow propaganda going on, and the feminists are like taking over and are corrupting society and all that stuff. I used to think like that, like I was taking all of that information in, and I consider that extreme, especially when you consider like how in Islamic countries themselves, it's like so much more worse. But I was taking in all of these opinions and then pretending that you know there's something wrong with them, but everything about my religion is perfect. And I used to also do this thing where I used to be like, from a young age, I used to be like, okay, it's fine if the religion is, I mean, it's fine if people are like problematic. It's fine if the Muslims are being problematic. The religion itself is perfect. Even though I come from a very dysfunctional family and my parents are very narcissistic and controlling, I used to even say, like, my parents have nothing to do with religion. And I'm not going to leave the religion because my parents are being this forceful and crazy and whatever. Uh, but
Mhm.
but still, I stayed because I was like, this is a religion and it has nothing to do with people. It's just me and God. Um, so yeah, that's what I considered extreme, to the point where I
So
even
these
started hating myself.
okay. So these
Yeah,
opinions that you consider to be more extreme are opinions that you didn't necessarily hold from an original thought. You just adopted them from other people around you. You're saying that they came from other Muslims in your life at the
yeah.
time. Yeah.
Especially because at that time I was also doing more tafsirs. Like I was listening to Nouman Ali Khan's lectures. I was listening to Muslim women and their like lectures as well, scholars, sheikhs, so many things. And like I was mainly taking in their interpretations of thinking it was facts, and like it, I just, yeah, like I was just soaking in everything as a sponge and like applying, because when I take things in and I apply it to my life straight away. So I'm a very like um I guess easily influenced person, which I kind of hate to say, but I don't, I like right now I wouldn't say I'm easily influenced, but back then I definitely was.
And it's good to keep in mind that you were a teenager. I mean, teenagers are easily influenced in general, and we all learn by absorbing what's happening around us. So it's kind of expected that most of us would adopt the values and opinions of the people we're surrounded by, and that, for a lot of people that continues to their adulthood as well. So it's good to reflect on your beliefs and your values and try to figure out how you got them, or if they're yours to begin with. And I'm glad that you eventually got to a point where you did that. But before we
Mm-hmm.
get to that, I want to ask, well, back then, when you said you first wore the hijab at the age of 9, how did
Yeah.
you feel about it at the time?
Nothing. I didn't even understand it. I got my period and then I was told you need to wear your scarf. So that was it. And I used to take it on and off during my time in primary school. And I thought nothing of it then. Like as a kid, you don't really take into considerations other people's opinions. Like you're just a kid. So that was me. And I remember like during PE, so physical education, when we did like sports and stuff, I used to take it off and I used to like play football in the pitch. And my mum caught me once and she was very mad. I came home and she was like, why did you take your scarf off? I saw you in the pitch. You didn't have your scarf on. And I didn't understand why she was angry. And so then she berated me and she was telling me, like, this is not what we do. We don't take it on and off. You don't do this. And I was told that I'm wearing the scarf because my mom is my role model, who is a hijabi herself, and also that I'm doing it because I need, because not because Allah loves me per se, but I would say it's more of the fact that since I'm on my period now, my parents need to educate me more. I need to make sure I don't sin because not only would I be sinning, but they would be sinning too. So something like that. Um, and then I guess what happened was uh, during my time in secondary school, after I left my boarding school, because during my boarding school, we're all girls, but we all had to wear like even the curbs inside the hallways. Like we could only take off our scarves within our room among our roommates. So that's what I didn't understand as well, because we're all girls, but we have to wear our scarf to the point that we even had to wear niqab. Um, and
I'm
even the
assuming
teachers are
it's
women.
for in case a man walks through the school or something, they can't see you not wearing the hijab or the niqab.
I think so, but the thing is that it makes no sense to me because in a boarding school, they have very strong like rules on who can come in and who can go out. So, and all the teachers are Muslim women themselves. So I'm not sure what it was. I think it was more like trying to get us used to it from a young age, and like you know, we are in an academic setting, so they would say this thing like when you're learning in the name of Allah and all that stuff, you want to be wearing the hijab out of respect to God, and like you want to be wearing the hijab because you're learning God's knowledge, and you know you, that kind of thing. I don't know if that makes sense though, but that's what they were saying.
Well, did you to confirm, when you hit puberty at that
Yeah,
age, you were told to wear the hijab. You weren't asked if you want to wear the hijab. Is that correct?
yeah. So I was just told
Yeah.
to wear it.
And has it ever crossed your mind as a child, aside from that incident where you took it off during physical education class, did you ever think to ask your parents or your mom, "Can I take it off?"
I couldn't. I knew I couldn't because the way they were already showing, like they were already showing to me that if I told them anything like that, they would not want me. Like they would not want to have me still. Like I don't know if that makes sense, but they would be really. I knew they would. I would disappoint them more, and even to this day, they don't know, because I know I would disappoint them, and they'd probably disown me. Um. So yeah, that's why I don't. That's why no.
Mhm. That's
But
understandable that you
yeah,
wouldn't want to even risk asking that question. Um, that's something that I always bring up in this discussion about the hijab is how, as you mentioned, sometimes it's not even about a man seeing you in it. It's about the conditioning of getting you used to wearing it. When you
yeah,
go to pray, you have to wear the hijab, even if you're alone at home and there's no man around, because you're conditioned to think that it is disrespectful to appear this way with your hair down in front of Allah. What did you think when they told you stuff like that? That this is to be respectful of Allah.
I would say I just thought that, okay, this is the religion's rules, and if I want to go to heaven, I have to follow it. Because if either I wear it, but even if I choose not to wear it, I'm still gonna go to hell. So as a young kid, when they would tell me these stuff, I'd be like, okay, I need to apply it to my life straight away, because everything they're teaching me, I can't let it go to waste. It's also all my hard work going into it, and I don't want to go to hell, and I need to please God. Like, that's what we've all been, like, that's what we were just being taught. Like, everything you're doing is to please Allah. Don't waste
Mhm.
time. You don't have enough time. Do things as fast as you can, pretty much. I mean, I remember listening to a lecture where the guy with this Numan Khan was basically saying, get your girls married off as fast as possible, because if they die unmarried, they're not going to be able to fulfill the sunnah. And even I thought, like as a lesbian, even I thought I need to marry a man, I need to get married, and I need to get like have children and please God. Everything was for God. So there was really no like what my opinion, obviously, because Islam doesn't allow that. Islam says like it doesn't matter what your opinion is. If God is like the objective whatever, God's opinions matters more. You're in a religion, don't say anything.
So the choice was between wearing it and obeying, and practicing the religion to the fullest extent,
Yeah.
and going to hell.
Yeah, and
Those were the two
even
choices.
then, nothing felt
Mhm.
enough. Nothing felt enough at all. Even if I was doing everything right, nothing felt enough about doing Islam properly. I was still told that you're not praying it properly, so you're gonna go to hell. You have the chance, well, you have the possibility of like falling off the sirat, all of that, that crazy stuff.
Mhm. Well, it's easy for us to say it's crazy now, but at the
Yeah,
time, I'm assuming you didn't think it was crazy stuff.
yeah, I took it too seriously, in fact.
Mhm. And that's understandable, as a child with everyone around you behaving a certain way, with your family that you trust, they're supposed to teach you about the world, telling you that it is a certain way. It's understandable that you would grow up thinking that way, or fearing hell and obeying whatever the religion says. So, yeah, you wore the hijab, and at the age of 16, you were still wearing the hijab. You said you were becoming a little bit more extreme in your views. Um, how did the trajectory of that change over the years?
So I think it was more of just me not being able to reflect. I really had no time to think for myself, because on top of all of the religious rituals and like requirements we had to do and obligations, there was studying, and I was also dealing with other mental issues with my family. So there was like how do I say this? I would use I was never good with my emotions to begin with. So I would use studying to like clear out any thoughts and not bother like dealing with them. I was just that kind of person. So I think it was like, without a doubt, like at some point I was just gonna just be able to like take everything I learned and just use it then and there, not question it. I wasn't the type of person to be able to like question things and think for myself anyways. Um and I was also someone who thought I was grounded, but not, I guess that was in other ways, not in the sense of my thinking. I didn't think the way I thought was important. So even, it's funny because from the very beginning, even whilst I was this extreme, I would say I always told myself in my head that if Islam wasn't real, I wouldn't be wearing the hijab. If I had the choice to, I wouldn't be wearing it. I used to even like deal with hair loss. I dealt with other issues with my hair and my tension in my shoulders and wearing clothes that I want. Because you know how like we had to wear blazers and stuff, and wearing a scarf was such a hassle wearing with the blazer. So many things that told myself this would be so much more easier if I just didn't have this stupid scarf in the way, and I used to always tell myself as well that um if I will it's yeah if Islam wasn't real, I wouldn't be wearing hijab. um I used to like struggle as well with the stuff like the discomfort around my neck, um and like how much I hated it. So I never really loved it. I just put it on because I didn't want to go to hell. So yeah, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah.
You said that you weren't the kind of person to think about your beliefs or to think critically, but you are here today, so clearly something changed along the way. So I hope you give yourself some credit. And can you point the finger to when exactly things started to change?
So yeah, I would say that because yeah, something did big happen. I stopped. I had a gap year. So obviously in a gap year, I was struggling getting a job and stuff, but also I had a lot of free time, and it was I was also starting to journal more and, and like question a lot of things eventually halfway through. And I think that's when it all started. That's when it started going downhill. Like now that I have the time to think for myself, and also I would say at that time as well, I was struggling to catch up with prayers and fasting, and I was really falling behind in my religious obligations. I felt so guilty for it, and I felt like I was not doing enough. And what if I died tomorrow and then I went to hell? So there was so many thoughts in my head, but but then I also knew that I was having doubts. I was definitely having doubts that I'm not addressing. So I would search up on so many things. I was even taking in I was even looking through like ex-Muslim stuff. When I came across that, I was like, at first my first impressions were like, oh, they are so like harsh in their criticisms. Like, what is happening? Why is it so aggressive? Then I look through it further and I'm like, hello, I didn't even know this existed. I mean, I never knew what happened with Safia. I never knew what happened with Sauda. I never knew all of these stuff with Maria and Hafsa. Those were like some of the beginning stuff. Then I was thinking about like, why am I as a lesbian, why am I not allowed to be happy? Like, why is it that why is it that being celibate isn't allowed because you're possibly going to go to zina to commit zina? But also, why
Mhm.
is being unmarried also not allowed? And then being married is also only with a man. But as a lesbian, I'm not allowed to be married and I'm supposed to be celibate, but I can't do anything to deal with this desire I have, apparently, even though it's normal, natural things. I mean, I'm pretty sure every human wants to feel loved. So why am I not allowed that? And what is the actual big deal with homosexuality? Because when I was searching about it more, I fell through a whole rabbit hole, and it eventually came down to like these bizarre reasons, like, oh, well, if you're gonna allow homosexuality, then incest should be allowed. And I read that and I was so confused because, I mean, didn't Islam start with incest? So I was like looking through it and I was like thinking, these things aren't making sense to me and at all. And then I was trying to think of things in a different perspective. I think I became more rational, I would say. I was thinking more of a political way, like, because when I also found out about how apostasy leads you to be killed and stuff, I knew there was something wrong with that. Because during my time studying history, I was seeing a lot of patterns between that and those rulings Islam had in place. These like also stuff like with, let me see, oh yeah, the conquest of the Islamic Empire. As a person who studied the British Empire, I was thinking, it's not empires are never ever justified. No matter what, I don't believe that empires and conquering other people's lands are ever justified. So what is the reason for this? And then I eventually came to the conclusion that, I think homosexuality is only banned because it does mess around with gender roles. It does mess around with like so many things that Islam has put in place to make women into these baby machines. Even I don't agree with, like, when I started to realize more about, for example, polyamory and like why men are allowed and why women aren't. Why are men allowed concubines apparently, but women aren't? Also, this whole thing about how Islam banned slavery, but I don't. But then I read, like, as someone like who goes through history a lot, I was reading, and like Saudi Arabia is like one of the last people to ever ban, like one of the last countries to ever ban slavery. They banned it in like the 1970s, I think. So that was like a long, long time. So I'm like thinking about these things, and I'm like, you know what, these things don't make sense to me. So why can't I leave this religion? And what is stopping me? What is holding me back? Why do I feel
Mhm.
like this? Like, why do I still feel attached to it? And I think it's more just emotional stuff rather than actually looking at what the religion is teaching and what it's actually saying to me, because I can't keep cherry picking all of these authentic hadiths. If we're using authentic hadiths to be able to choose why we are praying a certain way and how we know when to fast and what to do when we pray and all of these things, we can't be cherry picking hadiths that are also authentic and also problematic. And I don't, I also, I even with extreme, I even came to a point where I was justifying the marriage of Aisha, and I hated that. Thinking about it now, I hated that, because really it's never justified. So when I was breaking all of these stuff down, and I think my education helped me a lot as well. When I was breaking all of these stuff down, I was understanding more and more about, maybe these are definitely more logical reasons than whatever I've been learning. All the time it's just Allah knows best. We don't know, but
Mhm.
yeah, I'm like breaking those stuff down. I think it really helped me understand that this isn't what you want, and this isn't the kind of things you agree with. So that's what kind of helped me eventually to accept that I'm an ex-Muslim, and then also helped me eventually to take off the hijab, because I really think that if I was still a Muslim, no matter how badly I hated the hijab, I knew I would never be able to take it off. But I think as an ex-Muslim, it just changed. Like I was able to take it off because I knew something was wrong, and I didn't want to be associated with this religion anymore.
So it's interesting that you put it that way. When they say that hijab is a choice, what you're saying is, as a Muslim woman, it is not really a choice. At least it wasn't for you, because the choice was between disobeying Allah and just wearing the hijab. So if you were to take it off, you were disobeying Allah. You were possibly going to hell. You even mentioned this sentiment that what if I die tomorrow? And
Yeah.
it's not uncommon to hear that in Muslim circles. Like, and I remember before prayer, the sheikh would sometimes say, "Pray this prayer as if it's your last, as if you might die right after this prayer." There's always
Mm-hmm.
this existential dread that what if I die right now? Am I ready to face Allah? Do I have enough, or am I going to hell?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't certain. That wasn't just something that you alone experienced. I'm sure a lot of us can relate to
Mm-hmm.
that. And you particularly were in a difficult spot because some people would argue that it's not that it's haram to be celibate in Islam. You're allowed to be, but as you pointed out, there are a lot of people who really think that it's makruha, at least, like it's not. God doesn't like that. God wants you to get
Mm-hmm.
married and to start having babies. So you, as someone who's not attracted to men, you were stuck in this position where even if you didn't want to, as they say, act on your desires, which is such a weird way of putting it, but even if you didn't want to pursue love or have a partner of the same sex, you were going to be celibate, and people were still going to be pointing at you and saying, "Why are you celibate? You need to get married
Yeah.
to a man."
Yeah.
Um, so situations like these remind people that it's not just that we want to be visible, we want to be out there and open about who we are. Some of us do, some of us just want to avoid the noise. But sometimes we are dragged out into the spotlight because we're not behaving the way that we're expected to behave. So, yeah, it's a very difficult position to be in. And I noticed how you mentioned several women, at least 4 or 5 women, names of women that the incidents that happened with them and the prophet made you rethink the religion. And that's interesting to me because you're a woman and you can relate to women, and that's the angle that got you to really think about it. So all the women who have been mistreated or treated in ways that we would find today to be abusive or problematic, and those all existed around Muhammad himself. So that gets a lot of women to think, why the concubinage system, why the very skewed gender roles and very skewed rules to favor men over women. That's why a lot of women, they start thinking about religion critically when they notice that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So you said that once you started questioning the religion, once you became ex-Muslim, I suppose, once you left the religion, you felt like now you could take the hijab off. And how did that go? How
Yeah,
long did that decision take, and how did it go?
I think it was. I was trying to talk. So, I knew I wanted to take it off definitely. And when I got to a position where my parents aren't going to be, over my shoulders, like now I'm like in a place where my parents don't live with me. But even then, I was still feeling a bit of fear around like the Muslims in my within like my like I share a dorm, for example, with a few Muslims, for example, and I was scared. Like, if they just saw me come in, moving in with my parents with the hijab on, now I'm gonna take it off. What are they gonna say? What's gonna happen? You know, what are they like? I don't know what kind of Muslim they're like. And, I'm aware that I come from a background where some Muslims are so judgmental, like they would even snitch on you to your parents, and then that doesn't end well. So I was worried about these kind of stuff, because so then I actually I ended up wearing the hijab despite my parents not being there, um out of fear and hatred towards my hair, and like panic and so many things. I was so overwhelmed. I was like, I don't want to think like this anymore. Just put it on and get out. So I did. But then even then it didn't stop. I was in this auditorium listening to a lecture, and I was still hating on everything I did. I just hated the fact that I couldn't take it off, because I was thinking to myself, oh, I have this stupid scarf on, and everyone here doesn't have it on, but I have it on, and I don't want to be like this, and this isn't what I want. I'm in a situation now that my parents aren't in here. Why am I still doing this to myself? So then it took a long time, and I kind of actually shut myself into my room a lot. I shut myself into my room for the other 5 days, also because in the beginning I didn't really have anyone to hang out with. I mean, I just started uni, so um, there was that, and I didn't have classes in the first week, so I just shut myself in my room and I just stayed in my room. And at that time, most of the roommates weren't even like bumping into each other in the corridors and stuff, so I was okay at first, until the second week came and I was dealing with a lot of support from my friends online and my friends from the the place I just moved from and all of that stuff. And they were telling me I was being too harsh on myself, and I needed to just do what felt right. I needed to just take it off, because if I don't, then I'm just gonna think about it too much. And I'm going to also have these expectations on me still as a Muslim, even though I'm not. Um, Now to this day, I'm not wearing it, but I feel normal. I don't feel that, like, it doesn't feel any different anymore because I'm used to it. And I look back at it and I'm thinking it's really strange how easily I was able to just get over it, because it's just been like 2 weeks, I would say, and I've just gotten over it. And also, I don't feel insecure on my hair, and I don't feel insecure about the way people perceive me now. And I guess also because I have so much work to do and studying to do, I'm like, how do I say this? I'm too tired to care, because I also have a bad sleep schedule. So there's that. Like, I wake up, I just put my clothes on and I get out, and I'm too tired to care anymore. And I think that just like made me realize that there's no point thinking too much. There's no point thinking too much when I don't have a like I don't have that. I don't need to waste my time thinking too much when I can do so many other things with my time right now. And I'm already at a point where I've made it clear that I don't want to wear it. So there's that. That's what I want, and I need to understand that and not think about all of these other things people are telling me and forcing on me. And because even from before that, I used to see videos on like Muslims and the way they would react to a Muslim taking it off,
Hmm.
and it's so aggressive. And even I was, when I online, when I was saying that, how do I help me take my hijab off? I was called like a slut, and I was called like all of these things. I mean, someone like DM'd me telling me that um that I hoped you get raped, because like then you'd understand that why Allah put that law in place for you to wear the hijab. And I was like thinking, wow, that okay, calm down. Like this is crazy. So now I'm thinking, like, why would I want to be dealing with this stuff? I'm going to be criticized either way. I'm going to be criticized no matter what I do. I may as well just do what I want, because like that this is just what I want, and other people are going to be mad no matter what I do. As long as my parents don't find out, as of now, I think I'm okay. So that was it. That was pretty much when I left it, and now I'm in a good place, and I'm pretty happy with where I am at now. So yeah.
I am happy for you that you're at this good place right now, and I'm sorry for what you've endured to get to that point, and for these sorts of comments. I really wonder what's going on through their heads when they think that this is what God would want them to do, or this is how the prophet would have behaved, possibly. I don't know. I don't think people who send such comments, I don't think they deeply care about your well being as a woman or anything of that sort. It's just, I don't know. It's just really wanting to apply the religious rules and seeing it as a chance for them to exert power over you or to justifiably harass you.
Yeah.
Um, from their point of view. It's
Hmm.
horrible, and I hope that you don't let these comments get to you. And I'm glad to hear that even though it's only been a few weeks, that you're comfortable in your own skin and in your hair now. And yeah, there are a lot of women who, and I don't want this to discourage women who it takes them longer to feel comfortable without a hijab. It's a process. It's different for everyone, but I hope that everyone else can also feel as comfortable as you are without it.
Oh, definitely, yeah, because it's not easy getting rid of that. Especially because most Muslim women, when they put their hijab on, they are doing it at a younger age, and usually when it's from a later age, at least it's their choice to put it on, because from a young when their parents are strict, I've seen it myself in like since I went to an all Muslim school, and also to a school with majority Muslim girls who are hijabis. So I'm aware that they put it on at a young age, and they tell me that they love it and stuff, but they're also exhibiting signs that they don't like it. So there's that, but there's also Muslims that genuinely love wearing the scarf. So I wouldn't say anything about that, but the issue is that when you mention anything that they don't like, um, they really do get defensive. And when if you make a complaint about something about Islam, they get defensive. And I think it's just their way of not being able to address either they aren't able to address their own insecurities, or they are doing this whole thing of protecting their religion and defending Allah and defending Muhammad. So there's that. I would say, like, for example I can give is that it's got nothing to do with hijab, but more about marriage. And when I mentioned that I did want to get married, yeah, that did not end well. I got like five girls telling me, something's wrong with you. Why do you want to put career first? Why do you not want to get married? Why don't you have a type in a man? Something must be wrong with you. I think you just need to think about it better, and then you'll change your mind. Because I wasn't coming out of the closet, like, I didn't tell them I was a lesbian. I knew how that would end up. But this is just one of the many examples of how, if you say anything, um they think something's wrong with you, and then they point it out, and then they get really defensive. So even online, when I
And
was
that doesn't sound to me that they're being defensive. They're going on the offensive so that they avoid
oh,
thinking
right.
about their religion. It's yeah, it's not just that they're praising their religion, and they're also trying to put you down and point out flaws in you or what they think are flaws in you,
Yeah.
so that you're distracted from the conversation, essentially.
Yeah. I also find that on the internet, when let's say when a Muslim talks about the downsides of hijab and how they took it off, or an ex-Muslim says it as well, they immediately get called Islamophobic. So, like, I think that just silences a lot of real life views, because I know they would say like, you know, my religion doesn't teach that. I've seen in so many like videos of Iranian women talking about taking off their hijab, and all the comments are saying, well, my parents didn't force it on me and I love the hijab and blah 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 this and all of that. And all I'm saying is that, like, it's true that your religion might say that, but that doesn't really change the fact that other women are experiencing something completely different, and your experiences are not the same as everyone else's. So you can say that your religion isn't forcing hijab, but your Islamic countries are, and your people are, and people are dealing with these things, and their experiences exist, and they are allowed to talk about it. So they get
I mean,
like,
I can explain why this upsets them
oh,
because
okay, yeah,
this is just one theory. The way they see it, there is a such a thing as true Islam or some sort of essence of real Islam.
mm-hmm,
And if you are criticizing Islam generally and you don't put 1,000 asterisks and say, this is only my experience, it might be that my parents are bad people and my community are bad people, this has nothing to do with Islam, then they get really upset because they think that you're unjustly tainting the image of the real, pure Islam. But of course, as people who don't necessarily believe in Islam, we can see that there is no such thing as, a real pure Islam, an
yeah,
untouched essence of Islam. Islam is just what people practice. And if most people, or a lot of people, a significant amount of people practice it that way, then it will be talked about that way. And
yeah,
people get upset that this, the original source is being tainted. Well, there is no original source. All there is the expressions of Islam that we see around us
yeah.
today. So they're more concerned with kind of the reputation of Islam or the image of Islam,
Oh,
or
definitely, yeah,
or
the
yeah,
image.
protecting Islam than actually doing something about all the people who are allegedly not following Islam properly. They don't really care that the people do that. It's more about it looks bad for Islam if people point it out.
Yeah. And like, I just find that it ignores so much struggles of like how Iranian women like them, and then women in Afghanistan, and like the victims of honor killings and death penalties, and like they, if I'm 100% sure if they were given the choice to choose anything else, to choose what their religion is, to choose what they wanted their lifestyle to look like and who they wanted to marry, then it would be completely different, and they wouldn't be choosing what they were forced to choose. But this is what I kind of don't like about the Muslim community, is the hypocrisy and the double standards. Because the minute, for example, France bans the hijab, they would get rightfully angry, sure, but they never ever talk about the years and years of oppression of women from who are getting killed over hijab. I mean, the when I was learning about the incident with Mahsa Amini, and like how she was still wearing the hijab, but because she didn't wear it properly, she got killed by the morality police. And none of them talk about this stuff. And like, it's just, I find that unfair, because you want everyone else to talk about how your hijab is getting banned in other countries and, you know, so Islamophobic and stuff, but you won't even address how majority of Islamic religions are so messed up and like so badly um badly, like treating women so badly, and you won't address it at all. You just, because I feel like to them it's just more as oh, Islam is, they're doing something good, because Islam is is basically making them saving them from hell. So Islam is protecting them. They're wearing the hijab. They're gonna go to heaven. Blah blah blah. They're doing everything right. So we don't need to worry about them. And like, that's what I think they're doing a lot, because whenever I read stuff about it, they never ever try to even have any sympathy or of these women in these unfortunate positions, because like they're getting killed, and they're not just getting, these things are not just getting banned and then in jail, they're getting literally killed for it, even if they wear it. So these
I
kind of
mean,
things.
here's another explanation for why a lot of Muslims are complacent with that kind of thing happening. Aside from them not necessarily being near the person who's affected, or having no power to change what's happening
Mm-hmm.
in another country, they possibly think that sure, someone might be, or a lot of women might be unjustly suffering. Like I chose the hijab and my family was chill about it. But if a woman is forced into it, yeah, that sucks for her. But at the end of the day, Allah is just, and Allah will
Yeah,
reward
yeah,
her in the afterlife. And at least like she's being forced into something that's good for her.
yeah,
Like sure, she's not happy about it, but at least it saves her from hell.
yeah,
And then Allah will reward her for enduring and doing something that she wasn't comfortable with. But it's
yeah.
so frustrating for us as non-believers because as far as we know, there is no such thing as an afterlife or a second chance at any of this. So your
Mhm,
inaction or you're not caring about it, it's just a waste because people suffer and then nothing happens and there is no God to then reward them for it in the afterlife.
mhm,
So yeah, that's one way that religion can lead to complacency, is thinking that God's going to make everything just eventually.
mhm. And I just think that even though they're saying these things about how these women are enduring such hardships, but they're gonna go to heaven at least because they're enduring hardships, I think it says a lot about their religion and God, their like the way God views things as well about how to get good deeds and how to enter heaven, but also the justification of letting these men that kill women over these things, like just justifying it and saying, well, he did a good thing. He stopped that girl from like, I don't know, taking off her hijab and suddenly becoming a kafir and like going out to party or something. And then I was like even I was even more baffled the fact that honor killing is allowed. Like why? Like I even okay, even the fact that Sharia laws, like they always have these death penalties and stuff, but why? I thought your God does that only. Like why do you need to do anything about it? Like they were so like confusing to me because I don't understand why you would need to do something that I thought God was only in charge of. I thought God was only in charge of who would die and who would get punished, and I don't know, like so I'm like reading these things and I'm just thinking, why does okay, even in general, why does God care if I wear a scarf? Like why does God care about that? He's like this almighty being and he cares so much about what I do and what I wear. That's so weird to me. Like I'm just one person out of a million people.
Well, I'm glad that you're no longer stuck in that, trying to ask that question to yourself and not having a good answer, and
Yeah.
then trying to return to still practicing it anyway because you have no other realistic choice. Now you've kind of broken free from all of that, and I hope that it continues to be all upwards from here for you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
happy that you're free from the hijab that you didn't want to wear, and I'm wondering what words of wisdom, I suppose, or what would you tell to other women who are either wearing it and they're not quite happy about it and they're not sure if they want to take it off, or they know they want to take it off but they can't right now? What would you say to them?
I would say that you need to you shouldn't be thinking about what other people are saying and what you've like learned from other people. Think about what you want and what you are saying to yourself constantly. Like I was constantly saying to myself in my head, I don't want to wear this scarf. So if you're doing that as well, you should when you're finally in a position where you know you're safe and you are going to be, let's say, able to have some sort of freedom, because I am aware that some Muslim women, they're not in a position of freedom. Like they're probably not even, I mean, I'm lucky to be in a Western country, because I have a lot more privileges than a woman who's probably born in well, Iran or Saudi Arabia. So I can't be like this. I feel like I can't be this like straightforward or just like do what you want. But I at least accept that, you know, you are saying something to yourself and you have the right to sit, to think like that. You have the right to think, hey, I don't want to wear this. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to wear it. And I think accepting that mentality is like one of the baby steps to accepting your own freedom, because really your mind can really like trap you before you're even in a position to trap yourself. Your mind can really like mess with you and make you think things that you don't even believe in. So if you can't think for yourself, you aren't going to be able to free yourself from anything. That's what I think.
I want to reassure women who are wearing the hijab and are not happy about it, that they're not alone. And of
Yeah.
course, they know that they're not alone in the sense that, they're not the only women who aren't wearing or don't want to wear the hijab. There are a lot of women out there who don't wear the hijab. But you're also not alone in the sense that there are a lot of women like you who are wearing it and don't want to wear it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that is a little sad because a lot of women are suffering at the same time, but there's also some feeling of camaraderie and not being alone in the world. That this is not a unique struggle that you're only facing. You're not going to go to hell because you're thinking that you don't like this hijab or you'd rather not be wearing it.
Yeah.
Just be reassured that a lot of women have made it through that stage, and some of them eventually taking it off, and some of them finding ways to make peace with their situation. But at the end of the day, it's all about your perception of what's happening. If you feel like you're being forced into something and you feel like you're being oppressed, it will affect you more than if you realize that you don't want to be wearing it, but you're doing what's best for you in this situation. Because I know
Yeah.
that not everyone has the freedom to take it off.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we can all work towards a reality where people have the freedom, as many Muslims claim, to actually make that choice.
Oh,
Because if that
definitely.
were
Yeah.
the case, a lot of people would not be wearing it, I presume. Um, yeah, so again, I thank you for coming out here and talking to us about this. I'm sure a lot of girls and women out there hear themselves in your voice and wish that they could someday do what you did. And some of them have done what you did, and they also feel like they're sharing the same struggle with you. So thank you
Yeah.
again for putting yourself out there and talking about all this.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Absolutely. I hope so as well.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if you had any other thoughts. I do want to read some comments, but before that, was there anything else that you wanted to chat about related to this topic that we didn't get to talk about?
Mm, I don't think so. I think I covered everything. So I'd be willing to answer questions.
Okay. So, people, if you have questions for the caller, let us know right now in the live chat. Now is your time to ask. I will go through some of the comments that I pinned earlier and let's see if there are any questions in there. Some people are saying that they know others who were in a similar situation in a Catholic school as well. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that. And stop scamming, man. Thanks a lot for all the super chats. This is not exactly on topic, but I'll answer it anyway. They were suggesting if you get burned out, how about periods of hosting videos from other similar content creators on your channel while you recuperate? I don't know that many people who'd be willing to or have the time to make an entire video to post on my channel, but I should ask around the next time I'm feeling burnt out. Thank you for the suggestion. Um, Another super chat. Of course, Islam certainly forbids making pictures of living things, and those bullying girls and women for not wearing hijabs are quite happily doing this on their phones without a second thought. That was always funny to me. The sheikhs who go on TV, even before the internet, they'd go on TV and say that pictures are haram. And I'm like, brother, how many sins are you committing? How many frames per second is this video right now? Um, yeah. Did you grow up in a household where you were taught that pictures are haram? Because
Yeah,
not all
yeah.
of
I
us
used
did.
to draw as a
You
kid, and even oh
okay?
my gosh, my dad called me drawing Peppa Pig, and I'm like 7 years old, and he's like, "Astaghfirullah, what are you doing?" And he ripped it up.
Because it's a
So
pig, or because it's a drawing in general?
it was Peppa Pig, and I was like seven
Yeah.
years old, and I was drawing it in my glittery pink gel pen.
Wow. I'm sorry that
So
he. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
no,
terrible.
it's fine. Like even I used to be like an artist when I was a kid, and then because of all of this talk about don't draw stuff, I actually ripped out all of my baby whatever my kid drawings, um, and I threw them away. And but like I don't think about it much now, but I think it's ridiculous as well. And also it's funny because in my boarding school, the idea of taking photos and videos of your face is also considered a sin because you're technically like doing the same thing as whatever drawing is. And it's funny because that's what sheikhs are already doing. Great sheikhs are literally recording themselves, their pictures, their videos, and they're posting it online. So why is it okay for them to do it, but then they're criticizing they're criticizing other Muslims for doing the same thing. So I like looking at that, I'm just like, this is just bizarre. Like I have nothing else to say really.
Yeah, it's one of those things that Even us talking about it right now, I'm sure we'll get comments by Muslims saying, "Wait, no, it's not haram. Where did you get this idea from? That's like this sect of Islam." Look, figure it out among yourself. It's a thing in Islam. Like, we're not making this up. This is a thing that a lot of people go through. In my house, like growing up, it wasn't really a thing that we weren't allowed to draw, thankfully, or look at art. But I remember that I had this Arabic book that was from the Saudi government. Like, it was an Arabic language book from the Saudi curriculum, and every drawing of an animal had a black line through its neck. And I remember asking my mother, "Why is that? That's weird." I thought like they bought the book secondhand or something, and some kid just, some psychopath kid drew the line across every animal. My mom was like, "No, that's just how it came from the printing press," because there are people who believe that drawing is imitation of creation of God, and that is haram. So you can't pretend to like draw a lion as if you're taunting God and saying, "Hey, look, I can create a lion," which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
But yeah, that is a thing. There are people who think that way. There are hadiths about how the house with a drawing or with a picture, the angels don't enter or something like that.
yeah, that,
Um,
yeah,
which again, for the Muslims who say this is not real Islam, well, that's the confusing part, because which hadiths do you take to be trustworthy, authentic, and which ones do you just ignore? And I wonder what Muhammad would have thought of cameras and videos and all that kind of stuff, because he was talking about like drawings, not pictures. So yeah, food for thought, I guess.
yeah.
And yeah,
Like,
another super chat base. Sorry, you wanted to
no,
add
no, no,
something?
no, sorry. I was just like, so I hope you don't mind that I'm looking at the live stream comments, and I think someone said that okay, pictures as in paintings, but not photos. Yeah, I don't know about that. It's just that was stuff my boarding school literally taught me from the Beshti Zewa. So we learnt it from that, and also this is what I meant by picking and choosing authentic hadiths. Is that I mean that whole thing about not drawing images and stuff and doing what God can do. um I feel like it makes God look insecure, but also it is picking and cherry picking hadiths and stuff. So um yeah, pretty much. That's just what I wanted to add.
Yeah. By the way, I want to ask, can anyone hear the car alarm going off in the background? One of my neighbors, for some reason, does not, respond to his car or her car going crazy. Can you hear that? No? Okay, good. If you can't hear it, that's good. Um, yeah, another super chat, Soft Scanning Man says, notice how there's basically zero ex-Muslims who buy into the idea that the hijab is empowering. The arguments simply don't stand on merit without dogma. Um, I I'm sure there are ex-Muslims out there who agree with the notion that there are women who are empowered by the hijab, but for the most part, I haven't heard anyone advocate for wearing the hijab as an ex-Muslim, because it's hard to see it as anything but sort of it's putting women in a different class, in a different category, and it's sort of a constant reminder of how they are in that class. So
Mm-hmm.
when we have this discussion, a lot of people say, well, of course men and women are biologically different and gender roles exist for a reason and blah blah blah. I'm not saying that men and women are equal in every single way, but
Yeah.
or like that they're identical in every single way. Of course they're not. But there are a lot of restrictions and a lot of rules that make it seem as if men have a leg up on women in those societies. Even in a
Mm-hmm.
verse, God says that men are the caretakers of women in one translation, or the dominant over women, essentially, in Arabic. الرجال قوامون على النساء. So there's a hierarchy there. And wearing a hijab is just a reminder of that hierarchy. And it's robbing you of the chance of feeling the wind in your hair, and it's sort of putting another burden on a woman in case of being harassed if she's not wearing the hijab, or even if she is. The concept already has been established, the precedent that it's the woman has some responsibility to play in the man's action based on what she wears.
Yeah.
So there's so much that can be said about it. um, some women find it empowering, and I've seen this discussion especially come up with women who say, I don't feel very confident about my hair, so wearing the hijab is good because I get to hide it. So I mean, that's not necessarily a good thing. That's just
No, it's
kind of,
not. Yeah.
yeah, dealing with your insecurity in an unhealthy way. Some say that men treat them with more respect when they wear a hijab. That just points to the problem in that society. Like men should not treat you worse if
Any
you're not wearing
differently,
the
yeah.
hijab. Yeah. I guess, you know, flip it on its head. Men treat you worse if you don't wear the hijab, is what you're saying. Um, so yeah, there's a lot that can be said about that, but I haven't seen a lot of ex-Muslims advocating for wearing the hijab. What we would advocate for example, is um, these measures that say, well, you have to ban the hijab from this area and that area. I think in many cases are counterproductive, and they're really not respecting at least the perceived choice of the person who wears the hijab. I don't think that forcing them out of it is actually going to help them, or if it's going to work in the long term. What do you think about that? You know, would you want to see more and more countries implement hijab bans in certain areas?
I would, I think, I still think a country that can dictate what a woman should and should not wear is going to be bad. And regardless, I think the main thing should be freedom of choice. A woman should be able to choose what she wants to wear, and shouldn't be criticized in any way. And I think that's what should be focused on more, instead of just because hijab bans really, even then, don't do anything. It just causes more resentment and more conflict, and that's not what we want. We want to talk about how women should be able to wear what they want and not be killed for it, not be in jailed for it, not be told off and like honor killed for it, like I that's what I think is more important. I In a sense, if you're asking for my opinion on whether hijab is empowering itself, I don't necessarily believe it's empowering. I think it's more of just a security blanket. And also, let me say, how do I say this? I think hijab. I sympathize for hijabis that tell themselves, "I'm going to wear the hijab because I'm insecure about, you know, my hair, and I don't want to think about it," or because I was there once. I was there once, but I also sympathize for hijabis who are wearing it just because of men, like you said. And I don't think that's how we should approach these things, especially when you consider the fact that scholars are saying a bunch of things about hijab nowadays. So at first it was like, oh, you're wearing it because you're not allowed to be like this in front of non-mahrams and blah blah blah. But now it's like you're doing it for God, and now it's like you're going to do it because you're living your life in the way of Allah, or you're a representation of Islam. And when people see you, they're going to see a Muslimah, and oh, they're gonna know your values and stuff. So they're gonna like leave you or something. I don't These were stuff the scholars were saying, and it's just changing like all the time to like so many different meanings, which I don't agree with. Because if that was the case, for example, why doesn't a man always wear his, you know, um why doesn't the man always wear something, that shows that he's also a representation of Islam? I thought men were like the head of the household or something, like shouldn't they wear something? Because they're always going to be the leaders or the influences on their children. These things, they just don't make sense to me. So I don't think hijab is empowering, but I do understand that if a woman wants to wear it, I won't say anything. And I don't think a state should, or a country should, ever dictate what a woman should wear, but I do
Mhm.
sympathize.
Yeah, and I don't really want to convince women who wear the hijab that it is bad for them. Like, if she's
Yeah,
happy with it, she's happy with it. But I do oppose the content that is glorifying or beautifying the hijab, or
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
idolizing it, idealizing it. Sorry. And that is the comment that would, a commentary. If I make a commentary on someone saying that they love the hijab, that would be the context. It wouldn't just be a woman wearing a hijab and me walking up to her and saying,
yeah,
why are you a hijabi? So please don't do that. Like, with all the this sort of content that is critical of, or this discussion that is critical of a concept, it's not an invitation to go find someone who disagrees and then harass them about it.
yeah.
I hope that is clear. Just to be, explicitly clear, don't do that. Yeah. Um, I also wanted to highlight some other super chats, like HTP Key. Thank you so much for the super chat. They were saying, this caller is awesome and very articulate. I hope they're doing a lot better now, living life by their own terms and without fear and oppression. Um, I hope so too. A lot of commenters were really happy with you speaking to me today. So thank you again for being here.
No
And
problem.
yeah,
Yeah,
thanks, Late Night Kaiju, for the super chat, and Ferris Adam. And Calvin says, "Wish her lots of strength. She's an amazing woman." Thank you, Calvin. And yeah, there's this one comment I want to address here. I guess, again, not exactly on topic, but might as well talk about it. Critically thinking about Islam with a Western audience in English is useless. You should consider starting a second channel in Arabic for the demographic who really need a fresh perspective. What do you think about this, Ati?
Critically thinking about some of the Western audiences in English. I don't, but let me.
I
I
mean,
think I'm.
was this channel useless for you?
Oh no. I actually used your channel to help myself deconstruct my beliefs.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that. And
Yeah.
I guess in response to this comment, I want to say most Muslims in the world don't speak Arabic. And I know that's kind of shocking for some people to realize, but most Muslims are not native Arabic speakers. So that's a good reminder that they also need to have this sort of space to talk about these issues. It's not just about Arabs out there. And Arabs who understand Arabic are also welcome to watch my videos. Sorry, who understand English. So no, it's not useless to address these topics with all the Muslims who understand English but not Arabic. I think there's still a need for that. And yeah, there are a lot of Arabs who do talk about this stuff in Arabic as well. And I hope that this kind of content, I'll try to always add subtitles when I can. Or if someone wants to volunteer to make subtitles, please email me because I want this content to be as accessible to as many people as possible. Um, Pasta Pixie, thanks for the super chat. They're saying, these days I'm spammed with scientific proofs. Am I too stupid to recognize them? I feel like I'm missing out on something the Muslims know and I don't. Have you come across these reels and TikToks and stuff before, like
Oh
science in Islam?
gosh. Oh gosh. The thing is, though, is that I just don't think that's like at first I did. At first I was easy persuaded, but now looking at it and because I know a lot more, no, I'm not really. You're not like behind or anything because it these things that they claim to be scientific miracles that Islam can only do. Like for example, look at the Sunnahs and like look at the way the Prophet lived and how it his health benefits. I would say this, for example, Ayurvedic. I think that's how you say it. Those medicines in ancient India, medicines in ancient China, medicines um, even in ancient Egypt, which is such an advanced time for such an ancient civilization, and they had so much good health benefits. They even the practices they do now are still relevant to modern times. Like the way ancient Egyptians dealt with surgeries and like dentistry and all that stuff. We still take in these practices, and it's so similar. Would you say then that you're going to start believing in, you know, their gods, and now like you're going to follow, I don't know, Taoism and Hinduism? Like, of course you wouldn't, because really, like, there it's just, I think, I don't think that's convincing enough to look at into a religion and then stay because of these miracles, because otherwise that claim can be done for any ancient civilization.
Mhm.
And also I would say that, how do I say this? I would say that we should try to look at what the religion is actually preaching rather than thinking about these miracles, because even Muslims themselves don't even care about these miracles. They're just like believe in God. And if you look at the way they talk about it, blind faith always comes first. They don't care about these miracles. Blind faith in God always comes first. So that's something we should always take into consideration. And also we should take into consideration the fact that why are we choosing to be attached to this religion? Is it because we are scared of death and we are scared of how the afterlife? Are we like, is it because of like this existential dread, and like how did we come to be? These are all emotional factors that we just can't seem to let go of, so it makes us stay. But that's not something we should choose to stick to a religion for. If the religion is preaching stuff that doesn't make sense, and also, I mean, we can look at the miracles, but there are plenty of things that don't make sense in Islam. I mean,
Mhm.
that would be too
And
long to
I
go.
also want to add about the emotional part. Uh,
Yeah,
it's not to dismiss our emotions as human
yeah,
beings because we'll always have emotions, but be wary when a religion is manipulating your emotions, when
Definitely.
it's
Yeah.
using emotional manipulation to keep you in rather than actually tending to your emotions. There's a difference. There's a
Yeah.
difference between a religion or a routine or whatever it is that addresses your emotions in a healthy way, and one that sort of preys on it. So when we talk about the religion being too emotional or these reasons being too emotional, it's not to dismiss having emotions. It's to
Yeah.
just notice and check, are my emotions being exploited? So yeah, when it comes to
Yeah.
these scientific miracle explanations, I think there's two ways to think about it. One, was Islam, like, was that the only proof for Islam up until the point that the scientists discovered the science, and then the Muslims started digging through the texts and being like, hey, this also exists in Islam somehow. So before that point, was Islam not true? Like, could you not use that proof before that point? And like, I don't like this scatter, like, shotgun approach of giving you hundreds of so-called proofs, and none of them actually mean anything on their own, but together they're supposed to mean that Islam is true. That's not how proof works.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a distracting way of going about it. And I think most of the scientific miracle claims in Islam, if not all, boil down to this idea that how could these ignorant, unlearned, stupid people at the time, or people who didn't have access to information, how could they have known this one obscure thing? And that diminishes how much people used to know and how much science there was even before Islam,
Yeah,
unrelated to
definitely.
Islam. So yeah, don't fall for that kind of stuff. So no, the commenter was asking, um, is there something that the Muslims know and you don't? No, there isn't anything that you're missing. It's actually not, like, the conclusions don't follow the premises that they're putting forth. So when they bring up all this stuff, the conclusion's supposed to be therefore Islam is true. That's never really the case. So you're not missing at anything. Another question another question by the same commenter, Pasta Pixies, saying, I'm willing to believe in a God even if things don't morally align with me. My issue is with which religion? How do I ask God for help? How do I identify signs for which God? Did you face this issue? Help. Um, I personally, I don't think that if God does exist, that it's such an urgent or important question, or that there's any urgency to finding a religion, or that God spoke to us in one particular religion out of all of these. If God does exist, then it wouldn't fault you for not seeking out a particular religion or not finding the one way that God communicated with us in. So just try to find answers in your own way. If you feel like speaking to God, by praying to God, you don't have to put a subject on it. You don't have to call him by his name or her by her name specifically. A true God would know that you're reaching out to them, right? So try not to overthink it, is what I would say. And you don't necessarily have to ascribe to a particular religion if you believe in God. Just carry the feeling with you if that's enough for you. What do you think, Auntie? Oh, I lost the caller. Well, I'll answer some more chats till she joins again, if she does. Otherwise, I thank her for being here. Mark, thank you so much for the super chat. Says no questions, but great conversations. Thanks, I appreciate it. And T-Rex, thanks for the super chat, saying, do you think your belief in Islam was a gateway to other superstitious or supernatural beliefs? Oh, Auntie is back. Okay, let's add her.
Sorry, someone called me and I couldn't hear, so I had to read the
No
thing.
worries. Yeah, so this chat is asking, do you think your belief in Islam was a gateway to other superstitious or supernatural beliefs? Was that something in your life?
As in, did Islam make me believe superstitious stuff, or?
Yeah, like, did you believe other superstitious stuff because you already believed in Islam?
I I'm I can't I don't think so. I'm not sure. I really can't say. Like, could you give an example? Because from what I know, that well, I was taught that believing in these tarot cards and stuff like that are like shirk. So then I didn't do. I put myself away from these things. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can answer for myself. I don't think that I ever held strong superstitious beliefs, but the door was a little bit open because I already believed in superstitious things in Islam. So to think that For example, black magic is something that is mentioned in Islam, and hasad, the evil eye, is something that's mentioned in Islam. So there are other similar concepts similar to that, or that build on that. That if I believe in them as a Muslim, or I'm supposed to believe in them, I think, well, what's how far fetched is this other thing? But I can't say that I strongly believed in superstitious things, but the door was slightly open for me. Um, I
Yeah,
guess,
if we're
yeah,
talking about black magic and all that stuff, then yeah, I can agree, definitely.
yeah. Another question for you. So, do you feel like you're more able to express yourself now that you have left Islam? Do you still struggle with the after effects of it?
Uh, Thankfully, I'm in a place where I'm 100% confident and, well, I would say confident in my beliefs, and I don't feel any guilt of leaving Islam, and I think my being able to express myself, especially when it comes to now with clothing, because I don't, even though I don't dress like, I don't consider myself wearing immodest clothing, but even wearing stuff that I want to wear, like a shirt with a trench coat and or like normal like shirt, because my parents would make me wear shirts that even went below my knees, or like jumper dresses, or they made me wear oversized shirts because apparently like even the shape of the crotch area and all that stuff showing was like too haram and stuff. Even if I was fully covered, I couldn't wear shirts like that. And I had to wear like extra clothes underneath it. Now I can just like wear things that I like to wear, like especially because my clothes tend to not be dresses, you know. And my mom was not happy about the fact that I asked to wear trousers more than wearing dresses. I actually really hated wearing dresses. Now I'm in a place where I can wear trousers and I can just wear a hoodie, and I'm not going to be told off or shamed by my parents for like, oh my god, you're wearing something so short and your whole thing is showing now when nothing's really showing. So yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad that you get to be more like yourself now, and you don't have to um, dress or act a certain way for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. And I guess the last chat that we're taking today, off the chain atheist. Thank you so much for the super chat. They say people prioritize blind faith over facts, or prioritizing blind faith over facts is one of the many aspects of indoctrination, which is often a hell of a bee to overcome. Of course, indoctrination played a role in my journey, and I'm assuming it also played a role in your journey based on everything that you said. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, what do you hope to see for the next generations to fight indoctrination? Or how could we make it easier for other people to fight indoctrination?
The whole thing about indoctrination stems from the fact that you aren't allowed to think for yourself, and you aren't allowed to have doubts, and you, because you know, I don't know, shaitan's gonna come for you, and these all of these tactics used to make sure that you don't think for yourself. So if I want to give an advice to the next generation, I would be able to say you need to kind of be rebellious in some ways. You can't always be, because if you conform to everything you're being told, you're not you're just going to be a puppet, and no one wants to feel like a puppet. No one wants to feel like they're not even real. um, you want to be able to think for yourself, and you want to be able to not be easily swayed by other people's opinions. We're in a world now where opinions are so forced on us. Opinions are so, like, if you say anything wrong, if you say anything different, actually, if you say anything different, you are just going to be immediately like shut down. You're going to deal with so much backlash and so much crazy stuff.
I
We,
mean, I think over the years, for a lot of people, that's been the case even before the internet, even more
yeah,
so, being in a
yeah,
community that you can't act any differently. But I guess now there's also the exposure to all sorts of different opinions. And sometimes if you get on the certain algorithm, you will be fed certain opinions, and you might not think about it because that's what you're consuming. So that's another form of indoctrination, I guess, that if it's not from your own community, it might be people from other communities far away, or certain movements. So
yeah,
yeah, you need to develop the skills to, so that you don't have to trust any particular person or any particular group, because you can't always trust everyone 100%. You have to do some thinking for yourself.
yeah,
And if here's the thing, the cool thing about critical thinking is if you already had a good opinion or if you had a good belief, even after critical thinking, you'll keep that good opinion or that good belief. So it's not going to rob you of the good things that you have. It's only going to refine your values and your beliefs. So you shouldn't be afraid of critical thinking.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Again, I want to thank you for chatting with me and for staying and reading the comments as well. And yeah, would you like to remind people with the slogan that's at the end of every video? What do I say at the end of every video? Do you remember?
Uh,
Oh, that's okay. I'll tell the people. Yeah, thanks again, Ati. I will do the outro now. Special thank you to the patrons, YouTube members, and donors for making this happen, and for all the super chats today. That was very generous of you guys. If you'd like to join the community, links are in the description. For that, you have to be a supporter to be able to join the community. And yeah, thank you all. I could not do this without you. And as always, think critically and think for yourself and consider watching one of these videos next.